bank account got bigger, but my happiness didn't go anywhere. I wasn't happy at all.
And they're like, yeah, I have this lack in motivation. I lost my fire. Can you give me a quick tip to get it back? And I'm like, no, there's not a quick tip.
Before you have money issues because you don't have money, and now you have money issues because you have money.
Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special guest with DIETRICH who is very well known in the high stakes poker scene. DIETRICH and I became very good friends in the last couple of months and decided to create a podcast episode for you where we talk about the WSOP, how he prepares, and he shares extremely interesting insights of over 10 years of playing poker. This episode is full of value, so make sure that you watch it all the way to the end, take some notes ideally, and now let's jump right into it.
Welcome, DIETRICH, to my podcast here today. And I'm super proud to have you on this podcast because we became good friends recently. And I thought it's a good idea to have a chat. And usually when I know someone and when I know who that person is, it usually develops in a very interesting conversation. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself for the people that don't know you yet?
Yeah, my name is DIETRICH, playing poker for quite some time. I think started in 2006. Had a quite process which is well known to the German community at least. Got to know poker strategy, learned some strategies there, and went from there. I live in Austria, in Vienna, and I'm 38. No, I'm 37 actually. I'm gonna be 38 in 1 month. When I'm in Vegas, and just an open-minded, very social, very happy character, I would describe myself.
Would agree. I would 100% agree. So one of the things, as you already mentioned, was that you play poker for a very long time. Yeah, how long do you play poker for?
So I got to know the game 2005, 2006, right around that time. And like more serious, I would say 2011, 2012, like in that time.
Okay, that's a long time ago. So this is one of the first questions that I want to talk with you about today, because since you play poker for such a long time, how is it possible for you to still have that fire, to still fly to Vegas, fly for many, many hours, go there, grind the whole month, still have that hunger for success that I see you having?
The hunger for success it's not always the same. In like, it changes, it flows, it comes in waves, at least for me. And obviously it's driven by different factors. Obviously money is one big factor, but happiness overall and purpose. And yeah, so I think there's at least for me, was always like different goals I was striving for. And just right now, I got motivated last year quite heavily because I had such a big break during Corona. I didn't do much, and I felt like a little bit of like a loss of purpose, and I needed something. And that was like the straw I finally took, I guess. Maybe it's the one straw which was the easiest solution, because obviously to discover new areas in your life is obviously difficult and tough, because now you have to do something new. And so I took probably the easier route and went back to the poker thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm very motivated to work on my game and to become better player, because obviously when you don't learn as much as I did in the last couple of years, you fall behind, and I'm trying to gain some ground back versus the regulars.
Yeah, very interesting. I also had similar experiences when people came to me and they played poker for 5, 6, 7 years, and they're like, yeah, I have this lack in motivation. I lost my fire. Can you give me a quick tip to get it back? And I'm like, no, there's not a quick tip, right? You need to really understand yourself and figure out why did you lost that fire and how can you bring it back. And I think if you go through this process once, that can be a very, very huge aha moment for yourself, because you're like, okay, I wasn't in that like low, and now I pushed myself back up. And then sometimes you come back even stronger, right?
Definitely. And for me, I can say very openly that the first motivation was just to become poker pro. And when I achieved that, then obviously you just always have a next level you want to achieve. Like I wanted to become a regular in EPT main events, which is already very tough to become. And then when I was there, I was like, my appetite got for bigger buy-ins. I want to go for 25Ks. And then when I got there, I wanted to play bigger buy-ins, and I went for 100Ks or even 300K. I never played the 300K, but I could have played and lost the lotteries basically. So I was not allowed to play, but like these buy-ins were then the next level I wanted to achieve. And at the same time, with the challenges, I wanted to challenge myself more and more. At the same time, I wanted to have a bigger bankroll. So that was like not only a score game, it was some sort of that, but obviously it is some sort of security as well. At least I thought so. And so I can secure my life, maybe the life of my family and so on. And when I finally achieved like step by step all these things and my bankroll got bigger, I realized that, but my happiness didn't go anywhere. Like I wasn't happier at all. It was even tougher. You have to handle, like before you have money issues because you don't have money, and now you have money issues because you have money. And it's just a different setting, obviously. And it's a good problem to have, but it is still not something that you will achieve happiness, most likely. So I struggled a lot there. And then like Corona came, and that was just like a big cocktail for me to finally go more inwards and look more into myself and ask myself questions. What can I do to become a happier person? And at that time, I realized that poker and this whole money thing and become richer and whatnot is not the path to that end goal, basically. And that's where I then changed my actions very drastically and played way less poker. And then I fall back in my poker game. But at that time, or like now, the last 3 years, I won new perspectives, and I guess, or I think I understand life now a little bit better than 3 years ago, and I'm happier now than ever. So now playing poker and go and attack new challenges and getting back better comes from a different
motivation, right?
Motivation, exactly, a different angle. So it's not about getting richer. It's not about just the challenge itself. It's about having structure in your life, having something you can work on, having something you really want to wake up tomorrow to do, and you have something to do, and you have something to learn, and you want to grow in something. And it doesn't need to be poker. I'm sure there will be something I'm gonna try to get better at, something different later in my life. But for now, as I said before, this was like the easier pathway for me to just take the thing I was already good once at, and just went from there.
Would you agree when I say that at the beginning of your journey, it was you were more motivated by external things like money or trophies or people giving you that positive feedback, and right now you changed it more to like an internal intrinsic motivation, like you do this because of your passion, because of challenging yourself, because you want to grow as a person, as a player as well. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think trophies, money, then the confirmation from outside, that was a big driver in the past, and I don't think it is as much now. Sure, now accomplishing something, I'm still proud, and I'm going to share it with my friends and whoever is following me, but there's more the happiness from inside, and I'm happy to share this without the expectation that I need a certain amount of likes or whatever. So this is just I hope, and this is how it used to be, at least for me, that when I put in the work in poker, I got success, and I hope that this will be quite similar this time. And when I put in the hours and the work and I get some results, I'm happy to share them because I'm proud of it, and without the attached expectations to get all the likes from outside. That's just like something for me because I'm proud about that product, basically.
Yeah, I like that. And I also think, and this is what I teach my clients as well, that if you get motivated by an external resource, that is completely fine, but it will be most likely a limited amount of motivation, because at some point you have like enough money to live for the next 10 years without any problem. You're like, if I make like 5,000 more or less, at the end, it will not have an impact on me. But then when you find that inner source of motivation, that is an unlimited resource. And that can be super useful, because all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, there's like, I can be motivated all the time whenever I want to. And then you basically, as I said before, you can sometimes come back even stronger.
That's true. But there's one thing I would disagree with, and that's that I think some people, let's say, I don't want to name names, but let's say you are in the game for a decade and then have already, let's say, as you said, a lot of money, 5 million, 10 million, whatever, like that amount. And you're still playing a lot. So you're basically, what you're doing now is still pursuing a bigger bankroll and see this as a score game where, okay, I've been to 5, now I want to reach 10, I want to reach 15 and so on. So I think there can be some unhealthy thoughts going with it as well.
I also had a similar experience. There was also someone that was motivated by money, and that person always wanted to earn more and more and more. But at the same time, also his expenses grew. So he was like traveling more, spending more money, organizing parties for his friends. So if your expenses raise basically or get higher, you also have to make more money. So that's a way to compensate it. But I think at the end of the day, people will go through a very similar experience that you went through, that at some point they're like, okay, I don't need to spend all that money, I have enough, but I need something else, a different resource that motivates me. Really cool that you found this. And I think that is very special and you can be very proud of yourself, because I think a lot of people need a very long time to find this, and some people never find this, just so you know. Yeah,
I'm sure, and I'm proud of it, but and I'm someone who actually is sharing and trying to invite others in the poker community to find their way to happiness just by sharing my story and sharing my thoughts. I have very openly.
I like it. So how would you describe your work-life balance at the moment?
Quite healthy. I was in South America for a couple of months in the winter. When you are in a different place, it's way tougher to get a routine because I tried to get on there with the routine, but it's just tougher because there the grind starts earlier, and then later when the grind is over earlier as well. So you have an evening and then you go to dinner instead of working on your game. So there was I really tried hard, and I did a lot of hours coaching on gut coaching and so on, and calls with friends. The one thing which lagged basically was going to the gym and my mental health. So I struggled there, I would say, a little bit, even though I had the sun exposure I wanted, and that was the biggest reason why I went to South America. But now getting back, I immediately hired my gym coach from CrossFit Vienna, and we're doing 3 sessions a week, which is quite important for me for my body health. So I have this, then I do my daily meditations, I have my calls and my buddies I do content with, and then on top of that I coach, and then I just have my day off and go out and enjoy life. So overall I feel like it is in a quite good place right now. Now Scoop just started,
Scoop, yeah.
and it will be upside down a little bit, but I still try to maintain a somewhat similar approach during the 3 weeks. And then there's WSOP coming right after. So then it will be again a big task to maintain that, at least in a somewhat similar fashion.
Mm-hmm. And how do you do this usually during the series?
So there's some key factors I think are important. So if you live on strip, that you at least share or get a car or something, because Uber is quite expensive. So having a car and getting outside of the strip is quite important. So you have exposure to nature, exposure to non-strip activities, because being on the strip for 4 to even 7 weeks, it's very toxic and expensive. So my approach is to get as much out of the strip as possible, and then having day offs is quite important too. Going to Red Rock, going to Mount Charleston, going to Lake Mead, going to a show, just have some leisure time, because it is a lot of hours we are putting in there. Mm-hmm. And one more thing, and that I discovered that quite early in my career, because the first time I went to Vegas was 2013, and I think by 2015 already I stopped going from one tournament to the next on the same day. So that's just for me, and everyone is different, and some people can stomach this grind, but I cannot go to play the WSOP twice and then go over to the Venetian, play a bullet, and then max late rec a tournament at the Win or something. For me, at least, was too much, and I stopped doing stuff like that. I will do it in rare cases where I feel fresh, and I just ask myself and be very honest with myself and my mental state. Am I able to play a game? And if the answer is yes, I'm gonna go somewhere and dredge a tournament. And if it's a clear no, or I don't know, then it's I'm not playing and just take the day off or the evening off, and then go from there.
Okay, very interesting. So how do you do it with your days off? Because I recommend my clients usually when they're in Vegas to have on average 1 to 2 days off per week. Do you do it the same way, or do you say I'm taking a day off when I don't feel fresh? Or what is your rule?
Obviously, you have to look at the schedule a little bit, and just you cannot miss some tournaments which have high EV. So you just prepare yourself already to like think through the next couple of days. When is the perfect moment to take a day off, even though maybe you feel mentally quite fresh, but then you have to ask yourself, what if I go into day 2 there? Then I have to late break the better tournament at the same time, and then you might not feel as fresh anymore. So that's like some things I thinking through for the next couple of days. And what I did in the past was as well that I had, when I was there for 6 weeks or 7 weeks, that I had like a break before the main event. So end of June, I took 3 to 5 days off and went to San Francisco, San Diego. Last year I was in Utah and did some biking. It's just there was like a couple of days, no poker, not thinking about a hand, and just recharge. So for the final 2.5 weeks, I'm fully charged and motivated for the WSOP main event. It can become pretty problematic when like the highest EV tournament, which is obviously the main event, and you are grinding very hard the days before, the weeks before, and you don't take really days off. And it is something which has an impact on you. Some probably not, but most probably yes. Then it might make sense to just take some days off and go somewhere LA. You can go there by bus for $20 or something, or by flight for 50 or 60. So just take some days off and don't stay in Sin City and go somewhere to enjoy life for a couple of days.
That's a good idea, to get out of the city. I think that can give you a very fresh breeze of new ideas. I like that. And how do you prepare for that long grind at the WSOP in Vegas? Different time zone, different climate zone, different environment. How do you do it?
I did the math, like, I don't know, some time ago. Like, I've been in Vegas more than 1 year combined. So that's quite a lot for someone who's 37 and not living there. So my body is quite used to the climate there, to the heat outside and to the cold inside. And the casinos is quite cold and it's quite dry. And my nose in the beginning, for example, was bleeding, and I couldn't breathe as good, and jet lag, and one of my first long haul flights and so on. So it's, for someone who never been there or not very often, it is tough, especially in the beginning. So I would start slow, not fly there and just play on the same day because you're jet lagged and tired, or even not play on the follow-up day and just get a little bit used to the time zone, and then just start slowly. And being in a healthy mental state helps, obviously, and knowing how to maintain that state. So, and I can say it again and again, but meditating is at least one key to this. Everyone has to find for themselves what is important. Sleep, obviously, right? So do you need to share a room, or do you can sleep by yourself? Does your roommate snore? Do you have to have the 3 beers in the beer level, or after bagging, or you want to be fresh on the next day? Like these kind of things, there's a lot of small things you can do wrong or right, which will then have a big impact overall. I think sleep is important, that you focus on that. You can party, there's no problem with party, but just party before the day off, and not when you're planning to play on the next day.
Yeah, before a day 3 or something.
I did all these mistakes myself, that like I did crazy things, drinking from level 1, like in EPT Prague in a 2K, going to the club afterwards, and then being in bed at 7 and playing day 2 at 12:30 or something.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just toxic. It's not the highest EV, and it's very draining and very, very tough to play the day 2 as well. And my excuse was always that when I'm drinking, I really try hard to not punt on day 2. So I didn't punt, try to play as good as possible. And so maybe my game there would be even better than playing my usual A game where I still have punts and don't think through some hands or something. Like, it was a bullshit argument, basically. Like, I told myself, and I wouldn't do it now, obviously, and I wouldn't recommend doing it to anyone.
Right now, you're basically in the mindset of an athlete, right? That you go there, you want to perform at your best, and just take the highest EV route, right?
Definitely. And I'm not, this year, for example, I not go for the full 6-7 weeks. I'm getting older, as I said, I'm becoming 38, and so I took the 4 weeks I thought are the best 4 weeks for myself, and that's what I'm going to do, like 4 weeks, and I'm very structured and very prepared, and try to do the best there, and then go back to Europe to enjoy the summer a little bit.
I have a question that I'm really interested in, which is, since online poker and live poker have some differences, obviously. Do you also study things in a different way? Like, for example, I know that you make the most amount in live poker when you are a good exploiter. So meaning that you exploit people in the best way, and there are ways to study this. So do you study this in a particular way of like how to play against someone who plays like nearly every hand, someone who is a beginner, who doesn't know what to do, someone who never check raises? Do you study those specific situations, or do you make any adjustments in your study, or not at all?
I actually did something like that last year before WSOP, where I just went through a lot of scripts where note log check raise ranges and saw how much tighter need an opponent go by cutting out plus, and what kind of impact it has on my decision, and how much do I need to fold more than a GTO check raising range. I did stuff like that. Now I don't do it anymore because I'm not really convinced that this is the right study method. I think it's more important to study and understand the GTO ranges, and then think about what your opponent is actually doing. And there are always hands which are a mix, which means you can either fold, either call, or either raise. These hands usually clearly become a call or clearly become a fold based on the assumptions you have on your opponent. And this is what I do basically. I'm not trying to folding ace queen on ace high against the check raise, because my assumption is he's under check raising a lot. But now when there's like all these pairs which become a mix and you can fold or call, then these are the hands I'm going to give up, but I'm not going to give up everything but my top set. So I think that's not the right approach, because there will be always some randomness, some stupidness, that's why we're going there as well, because people just sometimes are just over it. This is what I saw a lot over the years, that there's this guy who's very tired the whole day for 6, 7, 8 hours, and just in one hand he's just going nuts and just spewing all his stack off just because he's hungry. His wife called, there's
yeah,
there's so many different reasons we don't know of. And so I'm not over adjusting, or at least I try not to over adjust and fold second nuts or call my worst bluff catchers, so there will be always some sort of GTO approach, but trying to maximize EV as well in a sense that makes sense.
You also have to keep in mind that you're in the poker game for such a long time. So for you, it's quite easy to make a quick adjustment if needed.
That you said there are differences in live poker and online poker, and in my opinion, these differences are not just small; they are very, very big. Because when you see people, they are quite unaware of their actions, of their hand movements and their body movements and their tone, how they say something and how they look and what else, So there's a lot of information out there to take advantage of. Online players who not often been on the live table, not even know of. These kind of information, plus the experience I had now over the past decade, helps me obviously tremendously to try to get to an as good as of an assumption as I can. And that's basically what I'm trying to do. And if somebody's new to the game, it's obviously not as easy, and you just try to hide as much as possible and hide information. That's, I guess, the best route.
Can you give us an example? Because you said there are big differences. So can you give us an example of what you see a lot of times, like the tells that people give away, or some common mistakes that people do when they start playing live more?
Yeah, I can. I watched the EPT Monte Carlo final table, and there was a situation where I cannot name I don't want to name names, and I don't want to say I cannot say the exact hands, but I know that Goodrek had a decision to make, and at the same time where he was thinking, he did just like this movement, just this hand movement, for 1-2 seconds, and obviously not aware that he's doing it. And when I see something like that, then in my head already, that's at least one mosaic factor for me, that he's not feeling very well. He has to touch himself to calm him down. So there's something which is not as strong, because if you have a very strong hand and you fake tank or whatever to show off weakness, he's not touching himself at the same time. So only if you try to do fake tells as well, like this could be a fake tell, but most likely it wasn't a fake tell. So his range was quite weak. I could see it on the TV, but when I would be his opponent and I see this hand movement, I would just go after this and just bet big on the turn, go all in on the river. And I know he cannot call because of just like, obviously you cannot only do all your actions based on this one information, but it is an information, and it is a piece of the puzzle I'm trying to solve, basically. And this is just one thing, and body movements, there are so many of, and people are just not aware of these body movements, basically. The good racks which play quite a lot of live, they might get behind some stuff of that, or some people telling them, but like mediocre racks or recreationals, they don't, and they do quite more open way, where just by timing tells, which is way easier to understand and to solve. When they're quite quick and when they're tanking a lot, it's most of the time very honest. So when they tank a lot, they don't fake tank most of the time, then they're just weak, and you can go over it or go after it when there's much on the line,
So would you say when someone plays his first live tournament, would you say focus on your body language, or do you say like, no, don't focus at all on it?
I would try to leave my hands below the table and leave them there. Is a good step. Obviously, sunglasses don't look pretty, but would help too, because eye movement tells a lot. Sweat, then the pulse. Yeah, there's a lot, like people how they shuffling chips. Once they do it this way, the other time they do it a different way. And when it comes down to showdown, you figure out things, So there's a lot of stuff, but so many small pieces, and I actually never wrote it down. And when there was this big Corona COVID break, and I came back to live poker in Vegas in 2021, was like, oh, I think I forgot so many things. When I saw it again, I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I was thinking, maybe I should write these things down, but you have to write it down when you see it, basically, because it is in the back of my head. And when I see it, it's like, okay, now I can make use of it. But if somebody's asking me, okay, let's do a 1-hour coaching, and you tell me all about your live tricks, I know maybe, I don't know, like 40 things or 30 things on top of my head, but there's so much more, in the back of my head. I cannot say immediately, but when I see the situation, I understand, oh, this is actually something you have to implement in your live game, so you don't get exploited or you exploit someone,
Yeah. I also do this with my clients, by the way. So I let them send me, when they like on a feature table or something, send me the link of that recording, and I go with them through their hands that they played. And sometimes I see very obvious things. And I can give you one example as well from my experience. I was working with a guy from Switzerland, and he was playing a lot of live poker. He had a very big tell. So whenever, like he had different chips in front of him, like in different colors. And when he had a weak hand, he put the lowest chip on his cards. When he had a mid strong card or mid strong hand, he put the mid like biggest chip on his cards. And when he had a strong hand, he put the most expensive, the biggest chip on his cards.
Yeah, that's like level 1. It's like
exactly. Yeah, it was so easy to read, and some of these tournaments that he played, he shipped with giving away so much information. And I said to him, you have to be really careful, because if you go to an international scene, then you might get crushed. And he even played in Spain. So this was an international scene, and he still crushed it. So yeah, that was one of the big ones. Or another one that just came to mind is that when he had a weekend, he was like going all in very slowly, like sliding his chips to the front. He's like all in, right? Very slowly. And when he had a strong hand, he's like all in. Yeah, boom, chips on the table. Yeah. Of course, I'm overdoing it, but basically this is what we figured out together. So
yeah,
those tells, they can cost you a lot of chips.
I've talked to several super high stakes players who came from the online world, trying to become a regular in Tritons or in the high stake tournaments. And in the beginning, they're always saying, yeah, but whatever, there is not much, they come go after me. And they get quite humbled after 1-2 years, and they understand now. And then they are like, oh, actually, I watched some footage of myself. I friends saw something, when they saw watching me. Actually, I did a lot of things. I gave a lot of stuff away on the highest stakes. This is not like a low stakes tournament in Spain. This is a high stakes tournament in Spain, basically.
Yeah.
Actually, Triton was in Madrid. So
yeah,
and so there is truth behind it, and for some they dismiss it or they don't believe it or whatever, and for others who making use of it, they are obviously a big believer. And now it comes down to what certain me or the other person is right. And we obviously never know we cannot boil it down to a number, but there's truth behind it. And why not learning these techniques and understanding them and using them to your advantage.
So you said before that you also coach people. Do you want to share a little bit of your coaching?
Yeah. So what I did a lot last half year, I would say, like a lot of time I invested in was ICM. Like I did ICM work in the past as well, but not as much. And now I did it quite intense. And I feel very comfortable, I would say, or confident with my ICM game. And I don't want to coach something and ask for a lot of money when I'm not good at it. So now where I think I'm quite good at something and I like coaching because it's a form where I can help someone, I get money for it, and at the same time I learn something as well, because poker is such a complex game, so many unique new situations that even though you learned something, let's say a couple months ago, it's quite good that you go over it again. So you remind yourself on what you have learned in the past. So yeah, I'm offering ICM coaching, and I do chip BV coaching as well. I don't think I'm as good in this chip BV situations than in ICM, but I think I have a quite intelligent and effective form of coaching. So maybe I would say I might be even able to coach players who are better than me in ChipPV or ICM, just because I think my method is quite effective and intelligent, I would say.
I will put your links down below in the description. So how can people reach out to you if they're interested?
Twitter, Instagram. Twitter is my PokerStars nickname, 2BICNRW16. And Instagram is very easy. It's just my real name.
Okay, perfect. I will link everything down below, of course. Anything you want to say or share before we wrap it up?
The first topic we went through were openly said that I went inboard and finally found some answers. This is something I deep down want to give everyone to their life and to share this. That is something quite important to going inboard. And I did it with help from a therapist, but there's no need to go to a therapist. Like if you don't feel comfortable going to a therapist, there are different ways. Just ask me or just ask Google or ask AI. There are so many ways now to get information how to go inboard, and takes just some time. It doesn't need to be much time, because people always are complaining they don't have time for this or that. And I think the most important time you can spend is going inboard and ask yourselves intelligent and deep questions, so you can be very honest to yourself and getting answers out of your life, basically. And that will lead you to a better and happier life.
100%. Yeah, this is why I also went to a therapist. I think that's also extremely important for, I would say, nearly everyone. Yeah, to like have someone to talk to, someone to really ask you good questions. And I think that's also
that's why I'm not saying you have to go there, because some people are able to ask these questions themselves. Some people understand that, but most people maybe should start with a therapist or start with a mentor coach like you, or others in the market, and have like the first steps. And that was the same for me. I had a mentor coach in the beginning, and from there I moved on to a therapist, and from there I moved on to hypnosis sessions, and there's still things on the plate I want to do, like ayahuasca. I want to do vipassana retreat and so on. So there's a lot I want to try, and without trying we won't find out if it helps or not. And so the hypnosis sessions, for example, were insanely successful for me, and I would recommend it to most people, at least. Yeah, the questions are the important part, basically. And if you're not able to ask yourself questions, if you're not able to put time aside for these questions, then maybe just do it like the 1 year appointment going to a dentist, So just put it on your schedule. I go to the therapist for 1 time a month, 2 hours, and then we'll go from there, and then you will see how it works and if it works for you. But if you just don't do anything, then you will keep being in this hole, basically, and you will not get out of it.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can agree on, that people have to try out different things to see what they like the most. This could be a poker mindset coach, could be a therapist, could be writing things down. Sometimes writing things down can already be the solution. Definitely. So there's a lot of trial and error. And I really like that you tried out a few different things and then you figured out what you like the most and what doesn't work so well for you. So very good words to end our episode here, I would say.
Thank you.